Often people don't understand who the audience is that Paul was writing to. It wasn't to Jews, it was to Gentiles. And that's why he seems to be breaking away with tradition. But he's not, because Gentiles were never underneath the Jewish tradition. Paul was Jewish, and he told other Jewish people to keep the tradition, to keep the laws. But when he's talking to Gentiles who are not under the law, it would be foolish to tell them to keep that tradition. This is one of the most basic misunderstandings about Paul. They don't understand who Paul is talking to, what his goal is. And because of that, they don't really understand the entire context here. So they just think that Paul is breaking away from the Jewish practice, but he's not. Again, he's speaking to Gentiles. Now, even his entire mission to the Gentiles is based on Jewish scripture. So he's looking back at people like Jeremiah who talk about the end of the world because that is what Paul thinks he's living in. He thinks he's living in end times. Why? Well, because Jesus has been resurrected, and that signals the general resurrection. That's why Paul calls Jesus the first fruit. So, with Paul thinking that he's living in this end time period, he's actually hearkening back to people like Jeremiah, who speak about what happens during this end time. What they say is that every knee will bow and that every nation will come to God. It is exactly because of that that Paul is actually bringing this message that has been approved by the apostles to the Gentiles. And Paul isn't the only one doing this. In fact, we are told that Peter at one point was the apostle to the Gentiles. And Paul also tells us that there are other individuals who are bringing this message to a wider audience. This message, again, is approved by the Jerusalem sect. So Paul is never breaking with tradition. In fact, he's working within that tradition. Sure, he tells Gentiles, you don't have to follow the law because the law was never for them. But the whole reason that he's even reaching out to Gentiles is because of Jewish tradition. He's actually looking back at Jewish prophets.